British Empire. The British Empire was one of the largest and most important empires in human history. This empire extended over several centuries and included large parts of the world. Here we will provide a comprehensive overview of the history and development of the British Empire. Foundation. The British Empire was gradually established over the centuries. British colonization in North America began in the 17th century, and later expanded to India, Africa, and Australia. British colonization in Canada began in the 18th century. The expansion of the British Empire is an important part of its history. Over the centuries, Britain expanded its influence and colonization in various regions around the world. Here's an overview of the expansion of the British Empire. Colonialism in the Americas. In the 17th century, British colonization in North America began with the establishment of settlements in what is today the United States. This expansion continued into the 18th century, as British colonies extended to Canada, the West Indies, and the Caribbean islands. India. Britain controlled India and had a great influence on the Indian Peninsula during the 18th and 19th centuries. It expanded its authority over most of India and formed an important pillar of its empire. Africa. Britain began exploring and colonizing Africa in the 19th century. It controlled many countries and regions on the African continent, such as Egypt and South Africa. It built a complex network of railways and ports to facilitate the extraction of resources and oil and their export to Britain. Australia and New Zealand. Britain colonized Australia and New Zealand in the 19th century. It built settlements and exploited the rich natural resources of these two countries.
Canal Suez. Britain bought a large stake in the Suez Canal Company in Egypt in the 19th century. This investment was made to enhance its trade and facilitate the transportation of goods between the east and west of the world. The expansion of the British Empire contributed greatly to transforming it into the largest empire.
Conflicts and wars. The British Empire led many conflicts and wars in order to maintain its control and interests in different regions. And this led to the formation of a map of political and geographical conflicts in those regions. The influence of the British Empire politically cannot be overlooked, as it contributed to shaping the modern world and influenced the political and legal history of many countries. The collapse of the British Empire is a very important and complex historical event. It occurred during the post-World War II period and lasted until the mid-20th century. Here are some of the factors that led to the collapse of the British Empire. Weak economy. After World War II, the British economy was destitute. The war drained its resources and affected the industrial and infrastructure structure. Debts were high and Britain was obligated to rebuild the country after the devastation. Weak national identity. After World War II, Britain witnessed major social and cultural transformations. Tensions increased between multiple social classes and cultures within the country. Independent movements. In many colonies, independence movements began to gain momentum. Pressure increased from the colonies to gain independence and end British colonialism. Political repercussions. Britain was forced to withdraw its armies and resources from the colonies after the World War. This left the colonies without security and economic protection. The role of the United States changed, while Britain was in decline. The United States developed into a leading world power. Political and economic importance moved from London to Washington. National secessions. Many colonies seceded peacefully and regardless of force, greatly reducing Britain's empire. Global impact. World events such as the Cold War affected Britain's role as a world power. Therefore, the collapse of the British Empire was the result of a set of economic
in human history. It had a major impact on the modern world, both economically and politically. Economic impact. The British Empire was the world's largest economic power during the 19th century. Britain took advantage of the resources of the countries it colonized and built a complex network of railways and ports. The political influence of the British Empire was enormous and comprehensive over many countries and regions of the world. Here are some important aspects of the British Empire's influence politically. Colonialism and regional rule. Britain expanded its influence through colonization and regional rule in multiple regions around the world. It had great authority in India, Africa, the Caribbean islands and other regions. Managing internal affairs, Britain organized and managed the internal affairs of the colonies and provinces in a way that suits its interests. Administrative systems were applied that relied on local government to a limited extent. Legal and judicial system. Britain influenced the legal and judicial systems of many of the countries it colonized. It presented its legal models and the foundations of the judiciary. Monarchy and cultural influence. The British Queen had symbolic authority in many colonies, and the empire spread British values and culture. Political systems. The British Empire transferred the concepts of democracy and the parliamentary system to many of the regions it controlled, and contributed to encouraging the development of similar political systems in those regions.